Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Upset Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Latasha Hewitt, but I'm happy to not be alone, and I have my fellow upsetters with me. What's up, gang?
Hey,
Hello.
hell,
It's
the
good to
gang's
be
all
here.
here. Yeah.
Yes, we're back again, and uh, this is a special podcast because we are recognizing our fathers.
Here we go.
Well, thank you very much.
Yay.
Yep.
Yes, our fathers. It's Father's Day. And we understand, we recognize that sometimes our fathers get the short end of the stick when it comes to celebration. There's always that comparison between Father's Day and Mother's Day. Everyone goes all out for the mothers, and the fathers get a tie and some socks, and that's all. But
Wait, hey, somebody's giving out ties and socks?
Look at her background. You see her
I know,
background?
right? I had to follow the
Yep.
cliche here.
We have some
Um,
Charlie Brown fathers here just getting rocks.
Yeah.
But no, we wanted to, part of what we do as upsetters is, we try to go against the grain. So we wanted to dedicate this whole podcast to celebrating fatherhood. And, the great thing about this crew is that we actually have four fathers. One of them is not here, our newest father. Justin is not here, but we do have what I like to call our seasoned fathers.
I think she
Uh-oh.
just called us old.
Old,
Charles.
yeah.
Salt.
Old dudes.
Old fathers.
They-
She
they
said
have-
season.
they have more
seasoned.
experience.
Yeah, what are we,
Awesome.
steaks?
So
Just
we're
as
gonna
tough.
just take some time to reflect on fatherhood, as well as we like to share knowledge, drop some knowledge to some of our fathers who may be listening as well. So we're gonna call on these fathers to give other fathers some advice. But let's just start off here.
I'll start. Let me just say that as I think back on Father's Day and then being a young father about 150 years ago, I will say that when my first child was born, I was petrified.
Hmm.
I didn't have fatherhood training. And I felt like I seemed to be always paranoid about whether I'm doing the right thing, Because, I'll just be candid with you. I didn't have a father that I could pattern off of. So, yeah, I kind of felt like, oh boy, this is really new. But I will say, shortly after that phobia, some things started becoming natural. It just, things you would do, you find yourself doing, and I think it's because of the emotional and the affectional bond you have with that child. Some things just come natural. So I say that to say that anyone that is just starting a family or young family, or young fathers, if you feel like you really don't have any real roots or base to be quote unquote father, that some things will come natural. If you truly love your child, some things will come natural, and and you'll pick up tips and things like that. But I was petrified after the first time, and then the second boy came. I kind of felt like I was experienced now. I know what I'm doing.
The
I
second
still
one,
didn't know what I was doing, but I felt like I knew it.
Right.
the second one could juggle knives. You'd be okay.
Right.
I tell you
I
what,
found myself checking in with a friend of mine who was a parenting specialist, because every time I did something or I chastised a child, I said, "Man, am I being a good father? Is that bad or whatever?" And but I can tell you this: I enjoy and still enjoy every second of being a father.
That's
I
great.
tell you what's dangerous. I mean, as and what Charles said was very very honest and very transparent and very revealing and vulnerable. But that is fathers who think that they do have an example, and what they don't know is that it's a terribly wrong example.
Wow.
And you get fathers who begin to replicate what they've seen. That's very dangerous. A good example of this, and I think I can say this for broadcast, is Donald Trump. His father, Fred Trump, I believe his name was Fred, was a horrible human being, and Donald J patterned himself in many ways after that father. And so, it can be very dangerous when children have patterns, or when sons have patterns that they think are the way that they're supposed to be, and they aren't.
This is true. This is true. But I like where Chuck was going with feeling prepared. I want to know from the other two fathers, what was it like for you going into fatherhood for the first time? Did you have that hesitancy, that anxiety?
I can still remember, okay, put the baby on the diaper, clean the baby up, tape the diaper, hold the baby up. Diaper fell straight back down on the floor, and I remember thinking, "This is not going to be easy." I mean, the diaper just fell right off, And my daughter Aubrey looked at me and just laughed, just to say, "You poor sap."
I can identify with that because my first boy, we had diaper service, and they would bring the diapers all nicely cleaned and pressed and whatever, but I still had to try to get the thing on the child, right? I was so glad when we transformed from regular cloth diapers the proper way to Pampers, because you just pull those strips and it's all
Tape them.
out the
Yeah.
door.
I don't know. I don't. I remember watching my. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. It was almost as though God gave us the opportunity of understanding what it's like to be a part of the procreation scene,
Mm-hmm.
and you just couldn't. But even through pregnancy, you're like, okay, I got this. I see what this is all about. But then actually, when they actually had the child, and you're there, like, is this real? Is this for real? And then what comes after that? And I'm so mechanically inclined. I just want them to cry, feed, do it in steps. They're just too many changes as you go through. And I could remember saying to myself, I don't want to do this. I could remember saying that, and I'm not going to say a depressive type way, but just the kind of way that you say to yourself, is there a back door that I can go out so I don't have to deal with all of this? But the truth is that really and truly, God gives you strength to carry on with it, because we're so crazy. We went ahead and got another one, and then after that got another one. So it can't be that bad the first time around. But I remembered it. And would I do it again? Go ahead to the next question.
Fatherhood.
Yeah, the
And
responsibility.
Marlene, you're gonna help me ask these fathers some questions too. But
Oh, I certainly will.
I want to know, society has a way of impacting how we view what our responsibilities should be. This is a good father, this is a bad father. How much of an impact did that kind of have on your thinking going into fatherhood or as a father?
I could say this, that one of the besides my father, I had men around me that were good fathers. And but then when you look at TV, me growing up, I had Cosby. I don't care about the Cosby now. I'm talking about the Cosby
I was
then.
going to say, man,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
scared me.
Dr. Huxtable.
That's the
Yes,
one.
that's right. Dr. Huxtable.
Okay.
Right. That's the one who we knew, right? And really, even though it was comedy, the Jeffersons, right? The black fathers that were there with their families. I grew up with Good Times.
Good
So
time.
the Good Times. So those are the type of things that you kind of look at fathers who were. So it was instilled within me that I had to be a provider. And that's what you saw in all three. So I just knew that piece will always be connected. I had cousins and also friends that did not have fathers, where my dad took on that role when they came over, or something of that nature. But this is bad for me, but I can't imagine what it's like to grow up without a father. I know, Chuck, you have talked about it before, but I just don't understand what that's about, so I can't even really speak for it. I always had my dad there, always had my mom, yes, but my dad has always been there for every step of the way. So I don't know.
that what you just said about always having a dad. I see a couple of sayings here, inspirational sayings about fatherhood, and one that
Mhm.
really struck me as important. This is from an unknown author. It says, "A father is someone you look up to, no matter how tall you grow."
Wow.
Mm,
Wow.
I like that.
Wow.
Hmm.
It's deep.
It is
So,
good.
I like that.
yeah, and when your adult children are still, picking up the phone or asking you, what do you think, or your advice, or whatever, because a lot of young people growing up today, I mean, they're so empowered with the way society has changed. They feel like, I can take care of life on my own. But to be able to come back, to your dad, even my guys, I mean, they blow smoke around me when it comes to technology. They follow me into technology, and they're really quite good at it. But not so good that they can't come back and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, Dad, what do you think about this?"
Yeah.
Or do you think we ought to try this or the other? And
You know,
I don't feel so kicked to the curb anymore.
Chuck, my son moved out, right?
Uh,
And I didn't want him to move out because I wanted to watch every step he made. I just wanted to be there. And when you provide for them with that, you could see
Mhm.
food, whatever, you're like, okay, I got this. Then one day he decided he's gonna move out. I was mad that he moved out.
Mhm.
Oh, Dad, because I kind of felt like, you don't need us no more. Okay, you don't need me no more. It's fine. Chuck, you want to know that this is gonna sound really bad, but I was so happy about a couple weeks ago. He was in Philly. It's about 1:30 in the morning. He called me. Both of his tires went flat. He
Wow.
called me. Boy, it's like I went in my closet, took
Yeah,
out my cape,
Gabe,
Yeah.
put on my cape. Son, where are you?
I'll be
You know,
there.
I'll be,
Dad the
I'll be
hero.
right
Super
there.
dad.
Yep. Hold on, Chuck. So when I get there to change the tire, this is what I recognize, and I want to say this to even new fathers. I know we're around, but I didn't teach him how to
Mm,
change a tire.
mm,
Right.
Right. These are some of the things you wish I wanted. He's always watched me change a tire, but I didn't want him to teach. I didn't teach him how to change a tire, though I knew he knew how to do it. So of course, while I'm changing it with him, this time I'm teaching him how to do it. I just took it away from him and said, you know what? This is not the time to teach you. Let me go ahead and change it right now. So you gotta, I'm here acting upset, but really happy to be there with him, one of those type of things.
Who need it?
But you, as a father, you still feel wanted. You still feel like, hey, is there something you can call on me? And I'm telling you, if there's anything that makes me feel really good, is for them to say, hey, Dad, I'm dating this girl. I want you to meet her first. And I'm thinking,
mm. Yeah.
those are the aha moments.
Well,
But my car
That's
breakdown
good.
stories are not about going and helping him change the tire. It's like, Dad, my AAA card is expired. I want to have my car towed. Yeah, I've had several of those.
well,
Hey, Nick,
Well,
listen. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second, Nick. I gotta tell you this. So I go down to Florida. My daughter's moving from one apartment to another apartment, and I'm happy because you know that Rob Patterson lives in the same complex or the same area that Rob was our other treasurer that
yeah.
lived there. So she's thinking, I'm in this new place. I'm thinking, where does Rob live? How close does he live to where she is? All right. So I take her out to Walmart and I said, hey, anything you want, anything you want. She's looking at a 70-inch TV.
Holy
There are
smoke.
no walls in her apartment that fits a 70-inch TV. Not a single wall. Boy, I tell you, fatherhood is crazy because I just was like, okay, let's go ahead and get that one right there. That one right there. I think I understand God more. Not that he just hands us everything, but I think I understand him more when you want your children to be comfortable, but you don't want your children to be comfortable to a fault. That's what I'm coming back to.
I remember my dad saying to me, and my dad was extraordinarily humorous. My dad said to me, son, as I was getting old, he said, son, I'm not just your father, but I'm also your friend, and I want you to know that I am your friend to the end. And he said, you can ask me for anything.
oh,
And I said, Dad, can I have $5? He said, son, that's the end. I mean, he taught me quickly that there were limits
my
to fatherhood. But when it comes, I'm a girl dad. I have a daughter, and you know you don't think about it, but what happens is that when you have a daughter, you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof for your daughter. I mean, you know, you King Kong ain't got nothing on you until she gets to the age of sexuality. That is the one place where you can't follow your daughter. It's where you don't exist anymore. Which is why fathers become very protective and shocked when not my daughter. My daughter has no sexual organs.
Right.
Because you can't follow. You're not her father there. The only you know, you see a man walk his daughter down the aisle and put her arm into some other man's arm, and at that point, when he backs up, he willingly gives up that place in her life of being the number one man.
Yeah.
And he lets it go. But if anything happens before that, he feels like somebody has broken into his house and stolen an heirloom. And that's something I had to go through with my daughter, you know. It's you know.
Yeah, that's what made me buy a gun. So actually I went and got, not even a gun, I went and got a permit the day she came home and was like, Dad, this boy. I said, excuse me? Say that one more time.
I don't know what you're gonna do when Jasmine gets married, though.
No, she's not getting married. She doesn't have sexual organs. It's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. But I've met him, and I'm gonna say I met him. And one thing, you know, he tries to be like, oh,
I'm sure he tries.
What do I call you? What do I call you? Mr. Graham? You know, one of those things. But I mean, I'm getting around to it, and the truth is that I mean, I'm doing the best I can at it. My dad is a Caribbean dad who hardly says "I love you." You know, and I'm sure there are fathers like that, but I know that my dad hadn't. The time that I've heard him say "I love you" is when I was in the depth of no religion, no Christianity, didn't know where I was going. Life was just crazy. And I know this is going to sound funny. So my dog came up to me, and the dog came to me and turned away. Wow, I almost got choked up on that. And turned away from me. My father comes downstairs and he says to me, what's wrong? And I said, you know what? This is it. It's just nobody loves me. And I said that. And he grabbed me and pulled me in and said, if no one loves you, know this, I love you.
Wow.
And that turned the whole trajectory of my life around, the whole trajectory of it around.
Wow,
and that was it for me. There's nothing that's in my way. That happened in 1995. I could tell you the date.
Wow.
And up to this day, because he had said that to me, it gave me a reason to live. It gave me a reason to say, okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. And sometimes even when I find myself down, I call him. He ain't going to say, oh, son, I love you. You know, one of those type of things.
He already said that.
He said,
yeah.
Right?
He already, yeah. You're not going to get that too many times. But my dad is the type of guy that I needed it at that point. And I know he means it. And I know he wants to say it. So, but I could tell you this, I tell my children now, I always tell them that I love them, and which is cool because they say it too. They never get off the phone without saying, without saying, Dad, I love you. So, and even when I'm mad at him, I'll be like, you know what? Money again. Here we go again. This again. Why don't you come back home? You know, you might as well stay at home. He's like, Dad, just send it. You know, I'm going to be okay. I need Rice Krispies, you know, something like that. And then he says, okay, Pop. That's how he says it. Okay, Pop, love you. Click. He always says it. So I'm grateful for that. Though I didn't hear it a lot in my house, I know that my father loved me and still loves me.
Very good. Guys, I've got this question that I want to ask you.
Yeah, forget the dog, right? Go ahead, Marlene.
I'm sorry, Marlene.
Yeah, no problem. I got this question because I heard it when I was young, and I've heard many friends say the same thing. I remember being young, and my mom was constantly telling my dad, you need to spend more time with your son. She didn't always point it out about the girls, but she would constantly say, you need to spend more time with your son. Can you guys elaborate to our brethren who are on the line, because I hear a lot of women saying the same thing now about their boys. Can you just elaborate on the importance of that? Because it is, as many of you were saying, people just assume that their children know that they are loved. Oh, he knows I love them, because they provide, because they pay the bills, they put food on the table. Says, oh, that's love. I know that my children know that. Can you elaborate on the importance so that some father who's listening may understand, hey, I need to rearrange my schedule?
Charles?
Well, no, that's absolutely true. And in my boys in their younger years, I mean, I was traveling for the conference a lot, and we were doing shoots and productions and what have you a lot. And I, rather than say, okay, guys, I'm sorry, I won't be here this weekend. And then the next week, sorry, I won't be here this weekend. And then the next week, and then the next week, I just packed them up and took them with me.
Yep. I'm a witness.
Wonderful.
I'm a witness.
I put them out there. I have a snapshot of Bryce on a camera at Net 04. When we did Net 04 down in Baltimore, he was one of the official camera operators. He hates the photo because he's so young. But I guess that's why they are in this business with me, is because I knew that I would be out of the house a lot. Mm-hmm. And in order to spend that time, one way to do it was to bring them along. And of course, they learned a lot and got involved in media production. But they were with me, not just as people to help out, but as my sons. And so that was my stopgap measure, is that whenever I had to be out of the house for any particular length of time, if I could take them with me, I would.
I'm a witness. I mean, knowing Charles as long as I have, I would see his sons with him so often. It was an admirable picture to watch. And they weren't just with him as trophies or tchotchkes. They were as a part. Well, basically, we actually could have called child labor on him, because he was always working the boy. I mean, as they were driving away in the car, they'd be looking at me saying, "Help me," because he would be working them like a government mule. But yeah, I mean, really, there's no greater picture than when you go up to the media office. And you go there, and Charles, his sons are there, and that's an experience I'll never have. I don't have sons, and I respect it, I admire it, and I envy it. And because they're grown men now, but there's still that bond that you see between them of respect and regard, and mutual affection over things that they share together.
Now it's gotten to, Dad, what are you doing? I'm putting this. Why are you doing that? I'm like, okay. Like the role reversal. They start to take over. And then when I go to grab, because all my life, when you're in media and you're doing sound systems, you're grabbing heavy equipment and big speaker cables and all that stuff. And I just still try to do it, with my older body. And they'll say, Dad, what do you put that down? What?
Charles comes in the room with the walker.
Put it down.
They say, here, look, Dad, eat this wheat germ and this lime jello and sit over there. We've got this.
But on the other hand, I did not have the honor of having a daughter. After the third try, I was like, okay, I can live with that. But my granddaughters and my daughter-in-law have become my daughters.
Yeah.
I'm just as hovering over them. First of all, my daughter-in-law is not called a daughter-in-law. That's my daughter. She calls me Dad. I call her. And so I get to, experience that, the dad and daughter thing. Not as much as you guys have, but at least I can get that gear shifting in how to relate to a female child versus a male child.
I'm glad you said that. I was just going to ask Pat, because he has both. You have a daughter and two sons. So how did you make those adjustments? Were you parenting your sons obviously differently than your daughter?
Use the lighter gauge whip, didn't you?
I there's a blessing in being a pastor of a church, and one of the blessings, and Natalie is a government worker, so she works for NIH. So I was soccer dad. um I was always at their games. um I even had the opportunity of helping out as far as tuition was concerned, that I also did subbing sometimes at their school. So I spend a lot of time with them. Um, but my regret, to be honest with you, to back up to Marlene's and I'll get on to Latasha's one,
Mhm.
is that I didn't divide my time as far as they were concerned and work was concerned. So if I'm with them at a game, they should never see me on the phone. You understand what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Even,
Hmm.
those are the things that I regret, or getting in a quick phone call on the way home from somewhere or whatever. Those are the things I regret, because I know that they wanted undivided attention. Even as children, they wanted that undivided attention that I could have definitely done better. And I'm telling people right now, especially pastors who have children, your first ministry is your family, is your children. That's your first ministry. That if I could go back now, I'd be like, forget the church. You know what I mean? Let me go ahead and deal with it. One day, my daughter came to me and said, "Dad, you pray different with them than you pray with us."
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
And that got me. It really did. And so, there's some regrets as coming along, but I spent a lot of time with my children. My second son is autism, but of the highest order, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
So he has the ability. He's very high functioning. So when I found out that he had autism, which I didn't want to uh w- h-
Acknowledge.
I didn't want to acknowledge it. No, not at
Hmm.
all. Because, you come down and think there's something wrong with you as a father, why something happened to them. And I spent a lot of time with him, to the point where his counselor, his therapist said, if you did not spend the time with him, he would have degraded as far as it's concerned. So
Mhm.
so I spent a lot of time with him, spent a lot of time even playing video games with him, which is harmful on one end, but helped him with his hand-eye coordination. Those type of things I've spent with him. Now, to answer Tasha's question, the girl, we were coming home one day from GE Peters, and I had just bought this navigator. Um, I bought a navigator coming from board meeting, Nick. We'll talk about that another time.
Navigate
When
the vehicle or
the vehicle. I bought
okay.
a navigator because I was mad at a board meeting and came out and went and bought a navigator.
Now
Uh,
there's a story there.
oh yeah, so I'm here. I'm driving with her on a day, and every Friday I'll get them McDonald's. Every Friday, it doesn't make a difference, right? We're coming home, and she's
Perfect
holding it.
Sabbath meal.
Yeah. And I was frustrated about something. Stepped on the brake, and it spilled. It spilled in the
And your
navigator.
new navigator.
In a new navigator, I turned around and I shouted at her, and I've never seen her face. It turned color. It turned a darker color.
Yeah. Been there. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never raised my voice at her again. I spanked her before, but that's out of love. But I've never raised my voice to her again, because of that. And that's why it tease me off if she tells me this guy shouted at me or so and so shouted. To me, that's equivalent. It's equivalent. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I treat her, I have to be honest, a little bit different when it comes to boyfriend girlfriend, or relationships. I treat them all the same. I have said to my son, don't hurt that girl. I've said that to my son. I've said to my sons, that's not the way. Get rid of him if you're going to treat him that way. I've done that, and it's likewise for my daughter. My daughter, I don't say get rid of him. Tell me how to get rid of him, and I will. One of those type of things. But fatherhood, I have to say to those who are listening, fatherhood is difficult. Every curve is learning. It's a learning curve every time you spin, and to be honest with you, I know this is going to sound all churchy, but I've been through child guidance again, and I've been through messages to young people again, because it being in youth ministries. Man, there's some stuff in there that's golden, that I wish that I would have opened that book many times over. I wish I had.
The most noble thing that I've done in life, and I'll take this to my grave, is to be the father of my daughter. Having said that, I have very few regrets in life. I mean, extremely few. And that, don't get me wrong, I messed up a whole lot. I just don't regret most of it. Just, hey, them's the breaks. I mean, but
hold on. I'm sorry. Nick, did you just say these are the breaks? Yeah, okay, we'll talk about that in another show.
Break it up.
Yeah, break it up, break down.
I remember one day yelling at my daughter when I was trying to get her to school and it was late, and she turned and said, "But I don't know what to do," and it broke my heart that I yelled at her. But what really has broken my heart, and I carry this until the Lord, renews life in a world made over again. I will always regret that I bequeathed to my daughter the pain of being a child of divorce. I'm not ashamed of it, but I regret it deeply that I made that is a part of her legacy, because I know it's affected her. And I mean, my daughter lived with me after our divorce. She lived with me. And many people, when a father is that, and I thought that I would be like a hero and all that. And, maybe there's something heroic about it. But all I can remember were mistakes that I made, things I could have done better. And I live with this eternal sense of indebtedness that I know I cannot make right. I can simply embrace it and accept it and realize that that is what grace is for. But there are things that I wish that I could redo for the sake of my child, and I can't. And that's something you have to live with it as a father. You have to live with the fact that you have been an imperfect father to your daughter, and that's something that you live with regret.
I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, fatherhood. I talked about the societal pressure that comes with fatherhood, and there are a lot of fathers that really succumb to the pressure to the point where they just choose not to be engaged
Not to be
at
there.
all.
Yeah.
Because so is it? I don't want to say. Is fatherhood a burden, or does it have to be a burden? How do you move from feeling it as a weighted task?
Yeah, it's a burden.
Shift
Well,
to it being.
If you're in the mindset, you can see it as a burden. Because, as the saying goes, anybody can be a father, but not everybody can be a dad.
That's true.
So to be a dad is work. Yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the things, just want to encourage those young fathers out there who are left to prepare meals for their children, learn how to cook. That was one of the most enjoyable things I had, when my wife was either at school or had a meeting, or, she was on an afternoon or evening schedule. I had to prepare the meals. And one of the things I enjoyed about preparing the meal and giving it to them was the looks on their faces. And they said, "Dad,
what's that?
What is
What's this?"
Hey, no, Charles, they look at you and say, when will mommy be back?
And why is everything green?
I learned early on. I had to go to my wife and say, you got to give me some ideas here, or cook some stuff before you leave or whatever. But I learned, how to cook the kind of things they liked, and it was kind of fun. And even to sit down with them and eat with them the same food, and it's just, simple things. If you find yourself, for young fathers out there who feel like, well, mom does all the cooking. Well, really, mom shouldn't do all the cooking. Dad should do the cooking
too. Easy, y'all. Easy. This is our show. So what happened?
Upset the podcast.
Yeah, right. Hey, you saw them? I mean, Chuck, when you said that just now, they were like, and get Marlena's neck right, I think the biggest thing is too much is given, much is required. It's something that I always think about. You have that. We're priests of our homes, right? And when you think about being a priest of your home, it takes work to be the priest. And to be a husband and to be a father. Of course, you don't have to be a husband to be a father, but to be a father requires work. I mean, it requires you to think about what's happening, think about what's going on, and it's a constant thing. And I'm going to tell everybody this. I remember growing up, parents were like, by the time you turn 18, you're gone. That is a lie. I mean, and that lie, Nick, comes from the pits.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean,
some
that
people
comes from
make
the
it
pits.
happen.
No, I agree with you, but there's something of now. Some love, there's parts of you where love will let you let go, but then on the other side of it, I say to myself, you 18 and you still doing that? I mean, you 19 and you still doing this? That's why you need me. And
That's
so
right.
you kind of say to yourself, as the priest of the house, you have to maintain that role. You know, I'm not going to cuss around them. I'm not going to I don't care how old they are. You know, okay, let me put it this way. This is how I look at it, and I'll pass it on. Friends, there's a time that your children must look through you and see Jesus.
True.
Yeah,
Because
that's right.
because they don't see Jesus otherwise anywhere else. They don't want to study it anymore. They don't want to do this, that. So you have to be able to play that out for them. I believe when I came and rescued Jordan from Philadelphia that night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I believe God spoke to him in some way. The Spirit spoke to him in some way, right? Even though it messed up my whole week because I'm an old man, you can't lose sleep and get your week back. I still want God to, I'm driving back like, God, hit him with Thunderbolt or hit him with this or hit him with that. It's always something that's a priestly thing that you always got to be thinking about. And I think that's the burden, Latasha, that you asked about. I think the burden is that you can't let that go. I say this also, and I think I understood what Nick was saying. Really, no pain, no gain. You know what I mean? It's painful to go through certain things in your life, especially you talk about marriage. Our marriages ain't all of our marriages ain't like Chuck's marriage, Nick. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's another podcast.
Phone call from Carrie Williams. Phone call from
I mean, why I say that is because all marriages, of course, have their ups and downs, and your children have to watch the ups and downs, right? So it's not just, Nick, where you said the divorce per se, but being in it at something that may be dysfunctional that they have to go through, So that's what I mean by burden. Is being a father is unselfish, and that's the part that comes.
It's very sacrificial, and it's really our opportunity to show our children how we deal with adversity. A lot of times sitting a child down and preaching and talking to them saying, you should do this, you should do that. Okay, that's good. But they're going to watch what you do.
Right.
Very much so.
They're going to look at how you handle adversity. I told my boys, if you want to know how to treat a woman, look at how I treat your mother. So on anniversaries and Valentine's Day, I'm getting the flowers and we're going out and we're doing things like that. And I said, so look at me. I'd rather say, look at me than to say, oh, here's a list of things to be a good mate or a good, a good dad. And trust me, the investment that you make in your children all through their lives, even when they become adults, if you do it well with love, it will come back. Because all of us on this podcast are not going to live forever.
Sure, right.
There will come a time where you will need your children.
Well,
Which one of them though? Because
I'm in deep yogurt. Because Aubrey gonna put me in a home.
Nursing home. Yeah.
I mean,
Chuck
Nurse
gonna be
Ratchet
all
is
right.
gonna be.
Listen, Chuck is gonna be all right. His son's gonna come up to him and say, Dad, put
And
this on.
His daughter-in-law.
Chuck's gonna be, Dad, put this on. Go sit in the corner somewhere.
I made a
Reminisce,
critical error Speaking of what Chuck says about when after the divorce, this sense of indebtedness said, well, you can't get married or anything like that because you got to raise your child first. And that was a mistake because she needed to see me interacting. But then on the other hand, I noticed that she was making sure that didn't happen. Anecdotal story, but it's a true story. This young lady, I was singing in a group at the time, recording group. Young lady, she was dazzling, way out of my league, but for some reason or another, nobody told her. And and she's in the car, and we were supposed to be going to dinner. And I said, you mind if I pick up my daughter from school? This is when we had Larchwood here in Philly. She said, no, I don't mind. And she said, and you going to take her to her mom's? I said, no, I'm going to drop her over at a friend's house. She said, and then her mom's going to pick her up? I said, no, then I'll pick her up. She said, then you'll take her to her mom? I said, no, then I'll bring her home. She said, she's going to spend the night with you? I said, well, no, she lives with me. And she said, you're raising your daughter? Your daughter lives with you? And I said, yeah. From that moment on, this young lady, it was Father, Son, Holy Ghost, me. That I was raising my daughter. Oh, I could do no wrong. I was in. And then I picked my daughter up, and my daughter got in the car with her uniform, and she was talking about her day, and you could tell that she and I got along. I could do no wrong. And then my daughter said to the young lady, because we were supposed to be going to dinner afterwards, before she got out of the car, my daughter said, you want some chewing gum? And the young lady said, no, but that is so sweet of you. And before my daughter left the car, she said, that's okay. I say that to all the ladies that my daddy is with.
Oh, no.
I've never seen that young lady again.
Wow.
And I noticed that my daughter did that a lot,
Sabotage.
That was her mechanism.
Yeah.
And so, you have it, Pat. There's this sacred romance with your daughter.
Oh, sure.
That you have to maintain, which is why it is so evil and devastating when men cross the line and don't recognize that sacred romance with your daughter does not involve any level of gratification on your part.
That's right.
That's why it is so damning when it happens, because it just obliterates a sacred paradigm that a girl has growing up. Well,
But what about the fathers that don't understand that they may have been just raised by mothers, or many of them, then they get a certain age, they just go out on their own, and so they don't know that type of relationship, and so they're only going to display what they know.
I go by what Chuck said. It's an instinct. It's the king instinct that you have. Here's another thing. We're not all perfect. Nick, Chuck, we could stay on here all day long and talk about our mess ups, and we could talk about how great thou art. We could talk about a whole bunch of it. Because there's some parts where I'd be like, I'm the greatest father in the world, and then when you think about some things that has happened in your life, you say, oh man, that really, I remember Joe kept bothering me, and this, that, and I put him outside like he was and closed the door. And I'm saying to you, but then now. You go back and you say to yourself, that could have had a psychological effect on him. Mm-hmm. Or now you say to yourself, wait, that could have been.
Could have?
Yeah. I'm going to ask the producer.
The boy, and it could have.
I'm going to ask the producer to edit from 44. So,
how old was he again?
How old? Here come social workers. Here's the thing. The real thing about it is that, and I'm answering Marlena's question, there has to be a fatherly instinct that God gives everyone, that you either have to deny it or you have to accept it. Because to me, you can't love a being and that being get hurt. I'm not talking about just physically. I'm talking about even mentally or what's the other? There's another abuse, emotional abuse. Mm-hmm. A father who had not had a mother, a father growing up with, doesn't mean he can't be a great father. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean sometimes you do the opposite of what you think is there. It's possible. And let me tell you something.
Does someone have to teach them though?
Well, what if you
Yes.
don't have it? I mean, if you don't have it, there has to be some type of
Observe it somewhere.
you have to be able to observe something, and like Chuck said, it has to be something that's instinctual. There's an instinct that actually runs. Look at a mother. You, I know it's not Mother's Day, but I mean, there's something about mothers that allow them to pick up a Volkswagen and turn it over if their kid is underneath it. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a father who have not seen their child in 10 years, 15 years that says, "That's my son. That's what is it that you want? What is it that you need?" And that's why I brought up the point that we're not perfect at anything. We're going to mess up along the way. So I got to tell you, I know some good fathers who had not grown up with with their fathers,
Oh,
and
well, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well,
good.
Charles'
I mean, look at
position.
Chuck. Look at Chuck. I mean, look at Chuck.
Yes.
They're going to put him in a nursing home until.
As long as I have
But
applesauce.
Chuck, too obviously, I mean, just I'm thinking about people that you see that grow up in the hood, right? And I'm going to say that because you see many of the fellas just kind of on the streets, right? And their proudness of them having a child is, maybe they pay child support or they give a little
Yeah.
bit money or they see them every now and then. But to have that real instinct of and connection between the father and the daughter that you guys are speaking of, or just your sons. I've just heard so many to say, well, I never had a father, so I don't know what to do. And especially being in societal norms that tell you a father takes care of your child. And so to them, being a good father is just making sure they have some clothes or they have some food, and they're thinking they are doing a good job, but they miss the whole relational part. That I remember being young, and man, I tell stories all the time how we were poor. We ate mayonnaise sandwiches, right? And look, and
Hmm.
I didn't even know I was poor, right? Because
We'll
my
eat that.
family
So go
was still
ahead.
around. We were still together,
Yeah.
and so even when you don't have all that you have, as long as that relationship is there, it makes you happy. And so I want you guys to speak to that, because I hear a lot of young men saying, I didn't have that. And so because they didn't have it, they feel like they can't give it. And so when you're saying it's instinctual, and that is instinctive, that it comes from God, I don't think many of them understand that, or that they can see that. And so they don't have that relationship.
Well, I'm just envying the fact that you folks had mayonnaise for your sandwiches.
Dig that.
But
The
but I
dry
mean, just
bread.
in closing, my final remark is that, I mean, like, for a guy like Charles, who talks about his father being absent, you gotta there's something instinctual that tells you should be cared for and protected, and you I mean, that's instinctive. You should be. And then when you have children, you pass it on. I should care for them and protect them. But if you don't know what that looks like, you have to find models, and you
Mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm,
because if you don't have it, you look for it in other places. That's why young people gravitate to gangs, because they're going to look after me and protect me,
mm-hmm,
and that's not
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
completely healthy. And so the idea is to find a model. So to all of you out there who are fathers, if you want to be, if you want to give a gift to your children, find good fathers and get in their presence and learn from them, and you'll be surprised how much good passes on to you.
Great.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. As we're wrapping up, some quick tips for fathers, and not just new fathers. There's still some fathers who have
Oh
some good
yeah.
years left um, with
Well, to
children,
dovetail
as we know,
on
fatherhood
what
doesn't
you said
end.
about my father was present, but he just as well not be,
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because, and you all know the story.
yeah.
So you can be present in a house,
Mm-hmm.
not be
Mm-hmm.
present, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So relationship, my final remark would be relationship is king. Even when you don't have money to buy diapers and food and whatever, depending on the situation you're in, the relationship is more important. That's valuable. That's an investment in your future as a father to children. And, today, unfortunately, we see so many families that are broken up. I think about, those children at the border who were separated
Yes.
These children will not be able to celebrate a Father's Day because they don't even know where they are.
Mm.
I think it's a sad commentary. So we talk about
Yeah.
fathers. Fathers are
Mm.
very, very important in relationship over finances, because some fathers don't feel like they can be a father unless they're making $1,000, $2,000 a week. I mean, this is ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
unless they have things to bring their kids. I think if they bring you things, that's going to substitute for a poor relationship. Relationship is king. And that's
Amen.
the most important advice I think I could share with young fathers or even veteran fathers.
Right.
If there isn't a relationship there, it's never too late to start it.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Pat, what you got for us?
Yeah, no, but I agree 100%. I'm here trying to think. I'm thinking about, I have to be honest with you, I'm thinking about like Justin. And if he were here, what would I say to him?
Mhm.
Um, you know, time, you can't buy it and you can't get it back. Once it's passed, you just can't
Ah,
get it back.
true.
And it's a commodity that's it's an expensive commodity because once it leaves, it just doesn't come back. And we're either going to live with regrets or shame, or we're going to live with excitement and pride. um and that's going to cause us to think about everything that we do. I'm talking to fathers. Everything that we do towards our children, it makes sense. It's either going to go one way or the other way. If you don't understand about something, learn about it. um there are classes, if you don't know how to be a father, that can teach you how to be a
Yeah,
father. And that's why I
absolutely.
wanted to answer Marlene's question, because you can't, I wish I had gone to anger management class. I don't lose my head all the time, but I could have learned something from it. um Fathers that go to the park together, that's not, they had father clubs that go out,
Hmm.
and all of those type of things. Those are things we only saw on TV in Manhattan or something like that, but it's there and it's true. So spend time with your children, spend time with your child, because that's all the memories that they'll ever have of you, and the respect that they will have for you. They will prefer your time over money.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
They will.
Great, great,
Yep.
great
They will.
tips. I mean, I feel like listening to you all has really given me a deeper appreciation for my own father. It's funny hearing from you all side what it's like and how you view, especially daughters, how you view your daughters. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have a different perspective, and I do want to, before we end, shout out my father, Frederick Lewis Betts, South Boston, Virginia.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, South
That sound like a
Boston.
millionaire type name,
yes,
Frederick Lewis.
uh,
That's-
or,
I was one of the fortunate ones who.
or what, Nick? Or what?
or they always give you all three names when somebody assassinates somebody.
Uh oh.
Oh my
Not that I know
goodness.
of yet.
Sorry
James
about
Earl.
sorry, Natasha. My fault. My fault.
Yeah, yeah, leave my daddy alone. Leave my daddy alone. No, but I was one of the fortunate ones who, I had and still have a wonderful father, and he did all of those things that I'm hearing you all say, the
Yeah.
time and kind of taking me under his wing. And me, even now, being 42 years old, I still see how my dad cares for me as though I were just four.
Yep.
Like
You will
Mm.
always be
he
his little
still
girl.
Always
wants
be.
the best
Yeah.
for me. He still
Yeah.
cares
Always.
about what's happening in my life. And I see the struggle in him letting me be an adult and make decisions for myself and have my own family now. I see the struggle, but now listening to you all, I understand how he's viewing me. And
Hmm.
that's why, it's that way. But
Call him up and ask him for some money. See how quick it comes.
Yeah. It will. It will.
I'm
but
just
this
saying, if
is great.
you're feeling that way.
Yeah, yeah. But this
Well,
was
this
great.
will be my first year without my dad. I lost him in
Oh,
Bless your
2020.
heart, man.
Yeah,
Oh
sorry.
so
wow, that's right.
I was just thinking yesterday, man, Father's Day is going to be a little bit tough. So,
Yeah.
to those of you who are out there, I met another young lady who had visited my church this past Sabbath, and she was saying, Pastor, I don't know if I can come next week. I just lost my dad too. So, I just want to share with all of you who lost your dad, and this may be your first Father's Day without him, or multiple ones, sorry for your loss, but let's celebrate the dads that we had, and yeah, just celebrate the times that you had together. I'm always thinking about my dad, and so we'll celebrate them even though they're not here, and
True.
cherish the wonderful memories.
True.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And, happy Father's Day to all our fathers who are listening, and those who are remembering their fathers on Father's Day. You have our prayers and our thoughts. We know that's difficult to grapple with sometimes. So thank you for bringing that up. Well, our fathers here, Father Talaferro, Father Williams, Father Graham, Father Peter.
And we're not priests.
I know, right?
I see you,
We
Nick.
salute you. We salute you, and we
Yes.
applaud the role that you have played in your children's
Happy Father's Day.
lives.
Mhm.
Happy
Thank you
Father's
very
Day.
much, ladies.
Enjoy the rest of this day. Celebrate and reflect.
Eat
Thank
something good.
That's right.
Hey, can I
That's
ask you a
right.
question? What if somebody has something that they wanted to ask from us, or
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. If you want to know, we like to continue conversations on the upset. So if you want to ask our fathers some questions, you can do it in the chat, or you can email us. Oh, see, I'm getting it
that's
all.
Marlena supposed to quit pointing now.
You can email us at upset. Yeah, there you go. Upset at aecsda.com, or you can comment on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll see that and get to those questions. We have a few of them piling up, and we are going to have another show where we address some of you all's comments.
Great.
You're really
Excellent.
astute out there.
Go.
All right, guys, it's been another great conversation. Once again, happy Father's Day. We celebrate you, and we'll see you guys next time.
All righty.
Bye. Happy Father's Day.